On today's show,
And I got to tell you, the south and central parts of town, everyone's really excited about this game. And you can just tell in the community, I'm sure the kids are going out, and these guys are friends too on both sides. Like, they know each other, right? So there's a lot of, I'm sure, friendly back and forth going on. But when they hit the field, it's going to be an amazing atmosphere, obviously.
Welcome into episode 26 of Kansas Sports Chatter, a statewide high school sports entertainment show streaming on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Cole Reif, and thanks to our sponsors, SPX. If you need a giant video wall installed in your gym, SPX, a Kansas-based company, is who you need to contact. And for all your digital advertising, make sure you check out Meyers Enterprises. We will know by the end of this week who is going to be in the Final Four for the high school football playoffs or the sub-state round, and we have a lot of high school football previews for you on today's show. Ezra Spiller with Rock Creek High School on the football team. He will be our leadoff question. Zak Ibrahim with Salina Radio on KSAL. He's called games for the Cougars and the Mustangs of Salina Central and Salina South. He'll preview that huge matchup in 5A between the two Salina teams. Eric Anderson, coming off a state championship for Ellsworth Tennis, the head coach, will be our quality time interview. Chris Bamberger, coach of the Lakin football Bronx, he'll be with us to preview the 2A bracket. Jason Lamb, longtime television sports broadcaster, will preview the Great Bend Hayes High matchup. Another one in 5A West. That's huge. Dylan Sherwood with Andale Radio will preview Behind the Mic, as we can see his setup in the press box at Andale High School. And Yiibari Nwidadah, a member of the Washburn University women's basketball team and out of Olathe North High School, will be our next level talent at the end of the show. It is time for the leadoff question. It is today's leadoff question with Ezra Spiller from Rock Creek Football. Ezra, what do you remember about your first varsity game?
You know, I remember we went to Southeast Salina, and that was the first year ever playing them. So it was an exciting game. They were defending 2A championship champions, so it was a big game. First start, like, we were a really good team that year, so it was a really big game. We went there. So, but one thing I remember, I got to play with my brother, and he's a senior that year, and my dad coaching me too, and he still coaches at Rock Creek. But it was really fun just having him back on defense, and my dad coaching me and my mom being there too. So it was just a full 360, it just felt good to have my whole family there and be able to play with my brother one last time. So, but it was a fun game, and, our outcome wasn't the way we wanted it to be, but it was really fun, I played D-line back then. So, but it was just a really fun game, and I played pretty good in it. My brother, he had a really big hit in it. So that's one thing I really remember. And our coaches always look back at that hit just for physicality. So it was just a fun game. That they were a good team, but it was a really fun game.
What were your nerves like going into your first game?
During school that day, I was definitely a little nervous, but once we got there, it kind of started going up, like wearing off. And, my brother was there to help me through it. So, and my dad, and my brother just telling me to stay calm, know your assignments, and just do what we did in practice that week and the whole summer. And, and once I got on the field, everything kind of went quiet, and it was just kind of just not really my moment, but it was just kind of quiet. I was the only freshman that played that year. So it was a big moment for me, I feel like, and I had big responsibilities, but, I wasn't too nervous. So.
Any other advice that your brother told you that year when you guys were both sharing the field at the same time?
He definitely just told me to do my assignments and don't do too much, and just, be my person. Don't worry about making mistakes, especially as a freshman that year. And with our team being really good, we had multiple seniors that I played over that year. So it was a big honor, but, he just said, do my assignment, stay in my place, don't do too much.
Have you rewatched that first game? Have you ever gone back and rewatched that game?
A couple of times, not anytime recently, because I can't find anything on YouTube about it, but that year I definitely watched it. Just my brother's big hit. It was a big hit. But if I wish I could find it now, but I watched that play a lot, and, I had a couple tackles that game, but not recently. I haven't really watched that game specifically, so no.
What are the big improvements that you've made since that first game to now going into this season?
I've definitely upped my leadership a lot, just being a senior this year, especially, and being the Mike backer on defense. You're the quarterback of the defense, so you got to know what your D line's doing, what your DBs are doing, what your other linebackers are doing. You got to get both calls for the back five, back four, then the front four, and then you got to communicate that, and then you got to know what you got to do. So my leadership has really grown a lot, and just me as a player, my physicality, and just my smartness as a player has grown so much.
That is Ezra Spiller with Rock Creek Football with today's leadoff question. Ezra Spiller with Rock Creek Football, stud. Appreciate him coming on the show for our leadoff question. Huge games in 5A West. I mean, there are huge games everywhere as we get set for the quarterfinals this week in high school football playoffs. The 5A West, you talk about two of the better rivalries in the state, especially on the western part of the state. Salina South, Salina Central. Don't need to say any more than that at Salina Stadium this upcoming Friday. We're going to talk about that matchup here shortly. But what about Great Bend and Hayes High meeting up for the second year in a row in the playoffs? Ooh, it's going to be juicy this Friday night. And KCMC Sports will be there for the broadcast. So you can tune in on their Huddle page and also streaming on their Facebook Live. Hayes High, Great Bend. Panthers got the best of Hayes High in the first matchup on the road, and now they host. But, of course, Hayes High knocked off GB in the playoffs last year, and for the second time in a row, these two teams meet in the playoffs. And you can tune into that broadcast on KCMC Sports, again, on the Facebook Live page and on Huddle. We'll take a break. When we come back, it'll be Zak Ibrahim. He is with KSAL Radio in Salina. He'll be on the call for that Central-South matchup in 5A West. Zach joins us next.
Mental health is crucial, especially during high school activities. It is a time when we're juggling a lot, school, sports, and clubs, and it can get overwhelming. Sometimes we might feel stressed or down, and that's okay. It's okay to ask for help when we need it. Taking care of our mental health is just as important as our physical health. Remember to support each other and create a positive environment in our high school community.
It is time to break down more of those brackets. It's that time of the year as we get to have some more football chatter, as Zak Ibrahim will be joining us from a Salina Radio. He's with KSAL there in Salina. The voice of not only Salina Central, but Salina South. Man, I got to imagine this is an exciting Friday night. We'll talk about the excitement of that matchup, but hey, no travel for either one of your teams this week, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, this is really exciting, Cole, and thank you for having me. I definitely feel lucky to be able to broadcast the first playoff game between South and Central football in 21 years. It's pretty amazing.
All right, break it down for me. I mean, I've been following Central all year, right? I mean, they're off to, they got off to that great start. They're 9-1 coming into this Friday's matchup. South, to me, like when Ozores took over, you knew it was just going to be a matter of time before he got things going because he had success there in Russell. Like, what has been key for South in picking up these last two playoff wins?
Well, in talking to the players and talking with Coach O, it's been a lot about before the season even started, going back to last winter when they decided we need to really get in the weight room, we need to be more physical, and it's been a total buy-in from not only the seniors but from the top down. Azor, as you mentioned, his turnaround that he went through in Russell, so he knows what it takes to have a program be more successful than South has been in the past. And I think when you look at a 1-7 record in the regular season, the same they had last regular season, you may say, okay, same old Cougars. But if you actually watched these games, not just even looked in the box score, South lost 3 one-possession games. The way they lost all those games was heartbreaking. They were in all of them, and they were just more competitive this year. So it's been a total buy-in from even back to this past winter when they got in the weight room. They decided we need to get stronger. We need to, because they play in such a tough league. I mean, they're playing Mays, the best team in 6A this year. And so they know what their competition is like. And then another part of it, too, you got to have a quarterback. And they have a sophomore who stepped up, Israel Tellez. Is a 2,000-yard passer. The poise that he's shown in these playoffs has helped them get to this round. So it's been a complete and total buy-in from the program, finding their young quarterback that they're going to have for years now. that's already been promising, and just a total buy-in from the top down.
Well, and I mean, for you being there in Salina and following these teams week in and week out, like for Salina South to go into the postseason and get that opening round win, that's a big upset, and people are okay. But then to go out and do it in the next round as well with wins over Liberal and Andover, like that had to have been fun, just kind of catching the eyes across the state.
It was incredible. I mean, we were keeping up with scores. I was doing the Central game against Topeka West, and we had one of our awesome part-time broadcasters over in Andover, and he's sending us updates, and they're leading after one quarter, they're trailing at the half, and then as we enter the fourth quarter, Andover didn't score in the third, and it was like, wow, South's defense is really stepping up. And that was just a possession-to-possession game. I believe both teams only had the ball 4 or 5 times, obviously running the football really, really well. And the way that Andover game ended was storybook stuff. Maddox Gerard, a linebacker for Salina South, hurt his thumb on the first series of the game, played with his hand wrapped up, ended up being the player to force the fumble. Andover had it inside the 5-yard line. Maddox Gerard forces a fumble. He falls on it with his injured hand, and the Cougars are in kneel-down position. They're in victory formation for the first time this season, and they knock off the 3 seed. So it was just the way that first-round game went was complete storybook stuff. And then on the road at Liberal, it was like, well, can this defense do it again? Liberal had put up 40 points the week before. South holds them to 3 in the first half. They forced 2 turnovers. This defense is just playing at another level right now. So that's been a huge key in both these games. The offense is doing its thing. They're running the ball really well. Israel Tellez isn't turning the ball over. But defensively, it's just been at another level.
And then for Central, I mean, it's been fun watching that offense and just the amount of weapons and how they use those throughout the season. It kind of give me the rundown of what's made Central so effective this year.
Well, they were really excited about their junior quarterback coming in this year, Griffin Hall, son of a coach, and you can tell when you talk to him, very mature guy. And, when I first watched Griffin, obviously the accuracy stands out when you're watching him in practice and in these early games. What I did not expect, Cole, was his ability to run the football. And this is a guy who's run for over 700 yards. He's not the biggest kid, but he's so elusive. And you might think, okay, smaller guy, a lot of speed, but he can run in between the tackles. And he knows that he has one of the best offensive lines in 5A in front of him, protecting him and opening up holes for him. And then it also helps to have the second leading rusher in the state of Kansas in Cooper Reeves. And this has been a guy who is really a joy to watch. I mean, he's a wrestler out there on the football field. That's his best sport. But you can tell when it comes to trying to tackle him, his sense of balance, his footwork. This is a really tough guy to bring down and a really tough offense to start because the defense is in a position where at any point the quarterback or the running back, the backfield could rip off a run to give you, not only a first down, but just completely break your heart. And then they've got some senior receivers on the outside, Bodie Rodriguez, Gannon Cole. These are guys that have really stepped up inside the red zone when Central decides to pass the football. But everything starts with that offensive line, and that helps them run the football with their backfield that's so dynamic.
All right, being a broadcaster for both those teams, I'm not going to put you in a position to pick this Friday night. But, I mean, go back to that week 1 Governors matchup, like that 31-21. So South was already competitive in that game against Central. That was a long time ago. But just talk about the excitement of having these two teams square off at this stage of the season.
Well, I can tell you, Cole, after week 1, I walked away from that game, and I was learning in real time about both these teams. And I walked away from week 1, and I thought, I don't know how it would happen. I don't know if they would put them in the same side of the bracket. I just hope there's a chance that these two teams play each other again. That game was so fun. And very competitive. It was the most competitive game that these teams have played in the regular season in quite some time. It's been a little bit lopsided with Central dominating in the regular season. But the fact that they haven't played each other in the postseason in, like I said, 21 years, that has completely got the community involved. South's run has obviously made a lot of people really, really happy. But South doesn't see it as they've been pulling off upsets. They see it as we've believed the entire time we were capable of doing this. Meanwhile, with Central, this is the most games they've won in a season dating back to 2005 when they won a state championship. Wow. And they have a chance to go to go even further than they did in 2022 when they won 8 games. So Central's in a position now to have the most success they've had under their head coach in Mark Sambo. And for South, I mean, this is something they believed they could do the entire time. And I got to tell you, the South and Central parts of town, everyone's really excited about this game. And you can just tell in the community, I'm sure the kids are going out, and these guys are friends too on both sides. Like, they know each other, right? So there's a lot of, I'm sure, friendly back and forth going on. But when they hit the field, it's going to be an amazing atmosphere, obviously. South didn't know if they didn't think they'd play another game at Salina Stadium, because they shared the same home field. This is obviously going to be a Central home game, but for these South kids, having another chance to play at home in front of friends and family, specifically these seniors, and then for Central, the class of seniors they have are just absolute studs. So it's going to be a great atmosphere and a great stage that both these teams deserve.
Love this time of the year. Exciting stuff. Zach, appreciate it, and have fun on the call this Friday.
Thank you so much, Cole.
That is Zak Ibrahim, a member of the KSAL radio squad out of Salina. He'll have the call this Friday night for Central and South. Here's a hard truth. If your business isn't using AI in its marketing, you've already fallen behind. But there's an advertising agency in Kansas that can get you back up to speed. That agency's name is Meyers Enterprises Media Research. The name sounds dry because the company's run by engineers, not salespeople. They use superior research and analytics that drive results with surgical precision. Marketing doesn't have to be a gritty battle in the trenches. Your business can win from the box. Visit their website, mediaresearch.agency, to learn more. Welcome back on Kansas Sports Chatter. It's time for our quality time interview, an opportunity to spend a little extra time with our next guest. And that next guest is Eric Anderson, the head coach of the Ellsworth High School tennis teams. Hey, Coach, appreciate your time. And, man, a state champion, Coach. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
What was that experience like for you? Well, first of all, what was your initial reaction when you did kind of figure out the points and knowing that you guys are on to your way to a state title there at Ellsworth for tennis? So what was that initial reaction like for you?
Yeah, we came in with expectations of winning the state title. My son, who graduated a couple years, played for me, graduated a couple years ago. He was keeping an eye on the points, and all morning long on Saturday, he kept saying, we got to win this match. We got to win that match. And it was after our number 2 doubles won their match against Central Plains, and then our number 2 singles player kind of slammed the door shut on Conway Springs and beating their singles player to get to the 5th place match. And it was kind of surreal for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Conway Springs, Ellsworth, you guys finished up with 44 points, and Conway Springs had the 36 points. What was it like, especially early on in the meet, just kind of keeping track of that? And obviously having your son there helped out too.
Yeah, we were keeping an eye on what Conway Springs was doing, whether they were winning or losing matches. At the end of the night, I kind of ignored our doubles teams. They were playing each other in the quarterfinals, and I went over and watched Phillipsburg singles player playing against Conway Springs singles player, because if Conway lost, that eliminated one of their entries. And so I was a little bit more interested in that than watching our own doubles teams play each other.
So I mentioned that initial reaction, who's the first person you reached out to celebrate with? Who'd you see first?
That was my son. He played for me for 4 years. He was the one, like I said, on Saturday morning, keeping me updated on team scores and the idea of it. He was the first one to be right there with me and giving me a hug and saying it's over with. I told him after he already told our girls that we'd won the state title as a team, that I didn't want them to know. But he said, as a player, I would want to know. That way I don't have any pressure going into your last match.
Sure. For you, and you mentioned the expectations coming into the season, but I remember reading articles of your team 2 or 3 years ago and how you had such a young team. So I think, I don't know, you kind of see this coming. Could you see the talent and the ability of what you guys are able to do coming over the last couple of years?
I did. We started a junior high program, 5 years ago now. Our seniors this year were the first team that we had. They were in 8th grade. I was warning coaches back then when they came to our varsity boys meet. I said, you watch out, because we're going to have some pretty good tennis players coming up on our girls program. Our junior high program is loaded with them. And it came to fruition. Anari and Felice were our first crew, and they were 4-time state qualifiers, stepped into the varsity as freshmen. the next year, Carly, Reagan, Hannah, they stepped in. So we had a really young core of freshmen and sophomores in 2023, and we're still pretty young. I mean, we had 4 of our 6 girls that went to state this year are sophomores and juniors. So
wow.
It's going to be a little run for a little while, and we have some pretty quality girls that are nipping at their heels and waiting to get on the varsity next year.
You mentioned the junior high program. I feel like that's a trend, especially I think over the last 5 to 10 years across the state, and more programs developing those junior high programs. Like, how important is that, Coach?
Oh, it's huge. I've said it all along. I've coached here for 25 years now, and I wanted junior high tennis when I first started coaching. It took us 20 years to finally get it added. And I told them it's going to pay off because other schools like Sterling, Smoky Valley, Wichita Collegiate, they all have junior high programs. So their girls come in knowing how to play tennis, knowing how to hold a racket. And when I get girls as freshmen and they're showing up and have no idea, and I have to teach them, it takes 3 or 4 years before we finally get them to that level. And once we added junior high, it's like, hey, this is great. They have 1 or 2 years of experience. We can get them going early, and then we just take off from there.
You mentioned 25 years now at Ellsworth. Like, what was the tennis culture like when you first arrived as a coach?
Ron Davis Sr. was the coach when I first started 25 years ago. He ran over to cross country, or took over the cross country program, and he asked me if I would coach the high school girls team. And he had a great team the year before they went to state. I was a little nervous trying to fill in his shoes. We fell short that year. A doubles team that he had qualified and medaled the year before didn't qualify at our regional. So I was a little upset, a little nervous. I didn't want to make him, look down on me in any way because we didn't qualify. So I felt some pressure, and I've tried to live up to his expectations from day one, and it's kind of taken off since then.
For you, I mean, especially in those early days as a head coach, like, what was that experience like for you, and just trying to get better at simply just coaching tennis?
It was a lot of me going to clinics, talking to other coaches, talking to Ron Davis Sr. about what he did and how he would take care of things, because it's a lot different than when I played in high school. I didn't think of the X's and O's back then. I was just out having fun and playing. And even when I played in college, it wasn't a lot of X's and O's. It was, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to play to the best of my ability, and what happens, happens. And then when I get on the other side, it's like, oh man, I really got to think, how am I going to put together a team? Who's going to play singles? Who's going to play doubles? Who plays doubles better together? It's taken quite a few years for that to happen. And it just came from other coaches and visiting with them.
Like, do you feel like you have a pretty good eye for that, as far as when you're trying to figure out that team and, okay, who is going to play doubles, who's going to be together, and, who's best, by themselves? Like, what's that process like for you? Like, sometimes when you have the experience, maybe it's a little bit easier when you have girls returning or boys returning, but like when you're trying to figure out a new team, what's that like?
I try to take into account their personalities. That's the biggest thing for me. I don't try to put 2 dominant players together. I always want to have somebody that's a little bit better than the other one. I just always felt when I put 2 dominant players together that we struggle a little bit, because one person wants to take over and then the other one gets mad, and it's always just been, conflicts that way. So we try to put them together so we have one girl that's, pretty decent and one girl that's pretty dominant, and it just goes with it. And it works pretty well for us.
So for you, is there ever a struggle between, trying to figure out if a player is really good at singles, or, maybe they're also good at doubles? What's that process trying to figure that out?
I try to take into account what the player wants. Carly Hazy, our singles player, the last 3 years, started off playing doubles for us. She was undefeated, and she came to me after our 3rd meet and said, I really want to try singles. I moved her to singles, and we haven't looked back since then. Her doubles partner at that time, Hannah Vague, we moved in Elena Junt with her, who was playing singles for us, and they went on and finished 11th at state that year in doubles. And then Hannah last year, we moved to singles just out of necessity, thinking that, we'd give it a try, and she's run with it, and she's really liked it. This year, when I asked her if she wanted to play singles or doubles, she said she wanted to play singles, and I think that's a big part of it. It gives the players some buy-in in the program.
For you, any extra motivation this year? Not that you needed it, but finishing as a runner-up last year, then getting that state championship this year, was there any extra motivation?
There was. The girls really felt last year we left some things on the table. Carly lost a match in the the quarterfinals last year. She felt she shouldn't have lost. Same thing for Felice and Elena. So they came back this year motivated. They wanted to be better. They wanted to try to push collegiate to the limit. Collegiate Act got bumped up to 4A this year. So when we saw that, it was like, hey, this is our year, but we still need to take care of ourselves.
Hey, last thing for you, Coach. I know sometimes after you win a championship, I notice some teams, like, they don't want the season to end. So, like, when you have a year like you did this year, how tough is it to put it to bed?
It's pretty tough. When I got out of school on Monday, I felt like I was missing something. I wanted to go over to the tennis courts and just keep going. The good thing is that a lot of our players, as we were coming home on Saturday from Salina, that they were talking about doing things in the off season together. Last year, we didn't have that. I felt like last year it was like, the season's over. We're going to wait a little while, take a few months off. This year was a little bit different story on the trip home. So I'm looking forward to see what they do in the off season, and then getting back in touch with them in the summer when we can do our team workouts.
When's the parade? I'll drive over.
We had the parade on Saturday. We pulled back into town, and we had fire trucks bring us down the main street, and had a whole bunch of people outside waving at us. And
cool experience for sure. Big thanks to Eric Anderson. Appreciate your time. Head coach of the Ellsworth tennis team, and that'll do it for our Quality Time interview.
Sportsmanship is when people who are playing or watching a sport treat each other with respect. This is a reminder to be a good sport to your peers, coaches, opponents, fans, and the people officiating the game. Sporting events have a much better atmosphere when everyone involved is displaying good sportsmanship.
It is time for football chatter here on the show as we get to dive into the sectional round or the quarterfinals of the state high school football playoffs in the state of Kansas. And we'll take a deep look into Class 2A with Lakin head football coach Chris Bamberger. Hey, Coach, appreciate your time. And as you kind of transition to that offseason, how much are you still kind of keeping an eye on those brackets and those results as they come in on the weekend?
Well, there's a lot of football that have coaches of friends of mine that they're still in it. So it's always kind of, I guess, a little bit of a thing for me to follow and see how they're doing. And obviously across the state, just as a football fan in general, it's something I'll definitely continue to keep an eye on.
Well, I know as we look at the bracket, that top part of the east side with Nemaha Central and Sabetha going at it in the quarterfinals, you're huge focus on the west, but still even those two brand names on the east side, and those two teams have been really good for a number of years.
Yeah, gosh, if you hear playoff football in 2A and you don't hear those names, it's kind of shocking at this point. I think obviously both programs have done such a phenomenal job of building a playoff product every single year. That's just something that you kind of come to expect even from us on the west of the state. Those names are familiar.
Yeah, huge matchup. Nemaha Central winning in week 6, 20-18. So a big East League matchup once again between Nemaha and Sabetha. Osage City and Caney Valley, you talk about injuries, and that's going to hit a number of these teams, especially a couple of big ones here on the 2A and the quarterfinals. And you as a head coach, how much is that? The show always goes on, but just kind of trying to weather the storm of those injuries throughout a season.
Yeah, I mean, small schools, you don't always have a lot of depth on your roster. And if you do, it's a huge luxury. And so football is one of those tough physical games. And if you get to this point of the season and you're healthy, you have a real shot because injuries are just part of this game and it's tough to overcome. But definitely like your chances if you're healthy at this point of the season.
Then on the west side, I mean, you look at southeast of Salina. I mean, I think a lot of people, including myself, really thought like this was their year to do it. And then, they did it a year earlier and they won last year. And now they're just loaded for bear, it seems like. And there's an injury over there at southeast as well. But a fun matchup for southeast and Phillipsburg. They've been putting up some points here as of lately too, Coach.
Yeah, and you know what? It's crazy to think that even the east side of the bracket, you kind of go through these teams, and I think the formula is pretty well the same for all of them. They all want to run the ball, they want to play good defense, and you hear Southeast. Obviously, they've been able to throw the ball around quite a bit, but Phillipsburg, if I remember correctly, I think they're a flexbone team, so you kind of have an old school running attack there, and so you're going to expect that to be a physical matchup.
Yeah, I mean, you got to like that. I feel like the flex is pretty strong in these three of the last four teams on the West. So you got Garden Plain, Hoisington, and then Phillipsburg. And how much can you appreciate that flex offense getting full force?
Oh, man. Option football is all over the place. There's different versions of option football. But when you get into the flex bone, it's something about kind of that old school option look and, kind of having an interest in watching the academies play in college football because they execute that to perfection, and so it's just a fun offense for me. It's something that I appreciate and I enjoy watching.
You look at Hoisington and Garden Plain, I mean, more of that flex offense, but I don't know, there's something different like when Hoisington's defense is doing well, but now they're scoring a lot of points. They've got 70 or more 4 times on the year, averaging 54 a game. How much more difficult does that get when you have that stingy defense, but then also your offense is humming too?
Gosh, it's you have to be really mistake free when you're going to play. Of course, this time of year it kind of goes to say, but you play teams that are going to run the football so well, like Garden Plain and Hoisington both will out of their offenses. You better be mistake free on offense because if those defenses are clicking and they're flying around the field, they're both athletic. They're going to get to the ball extremely well, and so your possessions will probably be limited. You're not going to have a lot of opportunities to handle the football. And so you definitely want to finish with points. Obviously, touchdowns are going to win the football games in the playoffs.
Scouting is such a big time thing any time of the year, Coach, but especially during the playoffs, it seems like that chess match is magnified even more. Like, what is that intensity like when you get into the playoffs, and especially as you start to advance?
Well, I think early in the game, you both try to fill each other out. You kind of see what the game plans are. I think in our offenses with the flexbone offense, sometimes you don't know how people are going to defend you each week. But this time of year, you can pretty much plan on both coaches, both sides of the ball. They're going to have good game plans, and you have to figure out, did what we prepare for all week, is that where we're going to be? Is that where we're going to spend our time? Did we hit the right plan? But after, that first quarter or so, you kind of fill each other out. You know what they're trying to attack. And then you can kind of settle in. And then obviously you have to take care of the football. If you can get into kind of a rhythm, on offense especially, you can start to build on your game plan and execute. But if you're not taking care of the football, it's really tough to get into a rhythm. And if you can't get into a rhythm, it gets super, super uptight on the sidelines trying to offensively call plays and then, get into a good position to give yourself a chance to get some points.
That is Chris Bamberger, head coach of the Lakin Bronx, joining us here for our football chatter. SPX Specialized Video Wall Solutions. Your gym needs SPX. It is football chatter on the show as we have an opportunity to preview pretty big ball game in Class 5A this week. And to help us out, it'll be Jason Lamb, a longtime sports broadcaster on the television side of things in the state of Kansas. Like, how long have you been covering high school athletics in the state of Kansas, Jason?
Over 30 years.
Over 30 years.
Yeah. Started in Topeka. Was in, covered Northeast Kansas high school sports for 5 or 6 years, and then Moved to Fox 4 News in Kansas City, where I covered great football on the Kansas side and the Missouri side. And then here, these last 3 or 4 years have been fun for me because I've been back to closer to my home, covering teams and schools that I knew about growing up in Great Bend. So, I got to lay it out there. I'm a Great Bend alum. So
you got some Great Bend ties here. All right, well, that helps us out for our conversation now. Contributor for Sports in Kansas and also part of that broadcast crew for KCMC Sports, who will be out there for the Great Bend Hayes High game on the 5A quarterfinals. I mean, for you, you've covered, like you said, you followed Great Bend over the number of years. You've seen Hayes a number of times as well. You're out there for the regular season matchup in week 7. And I was telling you, like, when I was setting up this interview, like, there's a lot of good rivalries, but sometimes those rivalries kind of quiet down a little bit as far as some standards. And, man, not anymore right now at Great Bend and Hayes on the football side of things.
No, it's probably as hot now as it's ever been. I mean, when I was in school in the, high school in the late 80s, I graduated in 1990. I mean, we disliked Hayes, and I believe they disliked us, but we were terrible in football then. We were in the middle of a 29-game losing streak. We were more competitive than some other sports. But, it is hotter than ever right now. Last year, with Great Bend taking the WAC championship away from Hayes, and then Hayes coming back to Great Bend and beat them 19-14 in the second round of state, and Hayes absolutely earned that victory last year in the playoffs in the rain and cold in Great Bend. And I was shocked, to be honest. I thought Hayes was going to beat them in week 7 at their place, but Great Bend, their offensive weapons just blew up, and it was a big surprise for me. And Tony Crow had some nice things to say about the Panthers after the game, and some not so nice things. But the stage is set here for a massive one.
Hayes is just so fun to watch. I mean, if you just like football, because of that physicality and how much they just wear on teams. I mean, even you saw it in the second half where they were playing catch up in that week 7 matchup with Great Bend. Like, they continued with that game plan, and it continues to work. Like, that's what I don't know. Like, they have a lot of talent, but it's just impressive to watch that physicality, really in the second half. Oh yeah,
I mean, going back to that playoff win for Hayes and Great Bend a year ago. They got a little bit of a lead, and they hung on to it. Great Bend only had like one good possession in the second half, which Minton scored on a long touchdown run to get them within 5. Otherwise, Hayes just ran the football. It was all Holden Lind, the whole second half, and they dominated, and there's nothing Great Bend could do about it. So, again, heading into this matchup several weeks ago in week 7, I just thought the defensive line and the offensive lines would decide this. And I still believe that Hayes has the better of in the lines of both teams. But, against Hayes in week 7, Great Bend's defense gave up lots of yards. I mean, Holden Lind ran for, 250 something, and but they bent a lot, but they didn't break, and they won that game. So this matchup, I think that's what's going to come down to again, is a play at the line and see if Hayes doesn't get premered, like Tony Crow said after Great Bend beat them a few weeks ago.
All right, you mentioned Ian Premer. So, I feel like all stars have those one game, at least, a handful of games, and Premer's been putting up stats, for a number of years now. But, yeah. I mean, that week 7 game against Hayes was kind of one of a signature game, I guess, for a senior year, at least in a regular season type format. Like, how do you slow him down? I feel like Aaron Beck and that crew do, a really good job of just finding new ways to get him touches.
He looked like a superhero against Hayes in week 7. He would not be denied. In any ball game, if he is running at full steam towards the end zone and you got one guy that tries to tackle him and then a second guy and maybe even a third guy, he is strong enough to, within the 10-yard line or the 5-yard line, to drag those people into the end zone with him. He'll get just enough to get over the goal line. He did that against Hayes. Last year, I was in Great Bend when he and Dax Minton hooked up for 5 touchdown passes. So that win over Hayes this year in Week 7 was his second 5-touchdown game.
Crazy numbers. Hey, Jason, appreciate it. Have fun Friday night as you'll be in the mix of that Hayes High Great Bend game.
Hey, I will. There's lots of big games in the state coming up on this Friday night. I can't believe that Great Bend is ranked number 1 right now for the first time in 9 seasons. I believe they've earned it. They really haven't played a close game all season. That Great Bend Hayes game in Week 7 was closer than the score and final score indicated. But yeah, I think they're super fired up. One thing I want to mention real quick. After that game in Hayes, Tony Crow was not happy, obviously losing to their rival. But he did say that Great Bend is the best team they played all season, that they could beat Junction City, that they could beat Derby, that they could beat Manhattan. He also said that Great Bend was celebrating its Week 7 championship, and he congratulated Great Bend on peaking at Week 7. So I believe the Great Bend football program is aware of those comments, and he made a great point. I mean, you can't peak in Week 7. If you plan to make a run to the state championship, you've got to plan to peak in Week 13. Which, they went on that incredible run last season and made it to their first state championship game. So Great Bend hasn't been to a state championship game since 2006. They were one and only. So this is their best chance, maybe in a long time, to get back to that spot.
Love Tony. Love sports. Hey, Jason, appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
That is Jason Lamb, a Sports in Kansas contributor and also part of the KCMC Sports broadcast this Friday night for Great Bend and Hayes. Are you looking for a new way to promote your business or organization? Do you want to get your message out to a statewide audience that loves high school sports in both urban and rural areas? Kansas Sports Chatter has advertising opportunities from commercials, sponsoring specific guests, product placements, and even a premier sponsorship. Let Kansas Sports Chatter promote your brand. Contact ksportschatter@gmail.com for more advertising details. That's ksportschatter@gmail.com. Come join the chatter. Welcome back on Kansas Sports Chatter. It's time for one of our latest segments. And like I said, the marketing team is still working on the name of it, whether it's behind the mic or inside the press box. I'm not sure. But all I do know is we have Dylan Sherwood with us now. He is the voice of the Andale Indians for the radio station. Hey, Dylan, appreciate you coming on. This is your first year covering Andale. And what's it been like covering one of the most dominant teams in the state?
It's been very interesting. They have a really good senior class back, and they had to replace an entire offensive line, and it's been interesting to see the new guys grow, and with Sam Harp leading the way for Andale, and it's been a blast.
All right, we bring you on now to kind of get a behind-the-scenes look. So I'll let you go ahead and flip your camera. I want to see your setup when you arrive to a ball game. Let's go ahead and first give me a good view of the football field and where you guys are at.
So let me flip it around. So we're on the east side, and so here's the east end zone, and then we have the west side. So this is the home side. As of course, nobody's out yet.
Sure.
But yeah, this is what Joe Westerhouse, their PA guy, calls Title Town, and this is a I've only been. This is the third home game that Andale has had this year. Andale's been road warriors during the regular season. So, but this is the view outside of my box as we come on into my box. So, my color analyst will have this headset, and then we have our mixer, and then we have all my goodies.
Okay.
I have my notes, so I have Andale notes, and then I have Eston notes. So I kind of put these together and reach out. I have my binoculars just in case I have to go far away. I have my laptop and my iPad.
So what do you separate here? So you got the iPad and the laptop. What are both of those used for?
So my laptop is used for entering stats, looking at Twitter, put scoring plays, and then for my iPad, I use it as a stat monitor with my stats. So I use a Google Sheet that accumulates everything. So
Boy, look at you, young guns with the fancy technology. All right, I was just writing them out on paper.
I've used this stat template for quite a while. I think it's at least 10 plus years. So, and this is my 10th full season covering high school athletics. I did do a little bit when I was in college, and then also in here, you gotta have the rosters. These are kind of my spot, just to point out and like look, so I don't have to go looking down at my notes just to see who made a tackle or anything. So
yeah, when all else fails, it's good to at least have a roster. All right, what else you got going on in here?
So we have this is the main area of the press box. This is their PA announcer, and just going on from there. And we have another little room here, and this is where visiting radio would usually be. But we might have to slide in here from time to time if the coaches want to take our box. But we have a spot no matter what. And then upstairs, I can just climb up.
Now, there's no hazard pay here, so don't get hurt.
I'm going to try not to. So we have the got the coaches, Andale coaches.
Okay.
And then, we got Reed. He is our camera operator, and
what's up, Reed?
He is so Reed getting set up here, and of course we could have radio up there too, but yeah, that's about what the Andale press box is like.
I like it. So for you, I mean, I saw some of those seats down there. Already people, parents and family members probably got some things reserved. Like, how early are those guys getting there?
Oh, parents tailgate here like maybe 2 hours before kickoff. It's amazing. Like the first home game, which was against Wellington back in September, I had to go check out the tailgate district. I can actually give you a little view because I can see it directly from my box. So we have the tailgate district back there where the big bus. There's a lot of other. I don't know if I can zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know
either. But yeah, I know I always try to get here at least 2 hours before kickoff, and even when I go on the road with Andale, it's some of the parents beat me there too.
Hey, Dylan, I appreciate your time, and have a good call, and we'll catch up later.
Thanks, Cole, and really like what you're doing across the state.
As Dylan Sherwood with Andale Radio.
Respecting our sports officials is an important aspect in our activities and for our communities. We need to cheer for our teams while also supporting the officials who help make the game possible to create a positive sports environment. These individuals dedicate their time and effort to ensure fair play and maintain the integrity of the game. They make tough calls in the heat of the moment, and their decisions are crucial for the safety and fairness of all players involved. When we show respect for our officials, we set a great example for athletes and fans.
Welcome back on Kansas Sports Chatter. It's time for our next level talent and opportunity to talk with a former high school athlete from the state of Kansas that is now competing at a college or university in the state of Kansas. And our guest is going to be Yiibari Nwidadah, a member of the Washburn University women's basketball team and out of Olathe North High School. Yiibari, appreciate your time now going your senior year at Washburn, but go back to those high school days, Olathe North. What stands out to you about playing for North?
I think just our growth each year, we definitely got tougher, and I think we were always a good team, but I feel like we really made our mark as the years went on.
Well, that experience for you, like, did you grow up like always wanting to get to that varsity level? What was it like when you finally got to high school?
Well, I didn't really take basketball seriously until my freshman year, just like with my coaches and like my teammates who I was with. So I mean, obviously the goal is to be the best that you can be. So getting to varsity was obviously a goal just because that is the best.
What clicked for you in your freshman year that you wanted to kind of take basketball more serious? Like, was there a turning point that you remember?
I think just a lot of people around me had a lot of belief in what I could do. They always told me I had a lot of potential. So I just really wanted to put the work in to just get better. So
3 state tournament appearances there at Olathe North while you were in high school. What was that like, just always being kind of a constant at the state tournament?
It was nice, but we were never satisfied because I think our first 2 years we lost in the first round, but we knew, like our senior year, we knew that we wanted to go further than the first round. So
what is that intensity like when you get to that state tournament?
Well, the lights are obviously bright, just being in a different arena than what you're used to playing in. But I think the goal is still the main thing's still the main thing. Like, you're out there to play a basketball game. You're out there to win. I think the only difference is, like, you're not guaranteed another game after that.
At what point in high school did you kind of realize, okay, hey, yeah, I'm pretty good at this basketball thing and I have a chance to go on to play in college? Was there a point where you where it clicked for you?
I'd probably say, well, my junior year was COVID, but kind of around then, I felt like I'd made a lot of huge steps in my skills and stuff. So I feel like I really could have taken it to the next level.
What was the recruiting process like for you, and how'd you decide on Washburn?
Well, I chose Washburn. It's an hour away from my house, so distance wasn't really a big thing for me, but just the community, that one really sold me, and they really care about being a student more than being an athlete. I think everyone talks about, like, oh, you're always a student first, but I feel like at Washburn we really take that seriously. And with my goals, I want to go to med school, and in my academic meeting that I had with my now advisor, he gave me the stats for, like, other biology students who've gone to med school, and I really like those stats because I felt like they do a really good job at preparing people for their next step after college. And then I had gotten bored with the basketball real quick. So
what's that like, trying to balance, like you talked about med school and just, focusing on your studies, but then also, this high level athlete as well? Like, what is that like, balancing in the athletic side and the academic side?
It was definitely tough at first. I mean, you always have to make time or find time to, like, be in social settings and all those things, but really you just need to have your priorities straight. Like, at the end of the day, you're in college to get your degree, so that should be as important as, like, the basketball, and you obviously want to get better at basketball too, so you need to make sure you're finding time with that within your schedule.
You just look at the growth that you've had on the basketball court while being in Ichabod. I mean, you go back to your freshman year, coming off the bench, 7 points, 6 rebounds a game. Sophomore year, you start starting, 12 points, 9 rebounds a game. Last year as a junior, 17 points, 8 rebounds per game. Now your senior year. Like, can you attribute that growth to anything? Like, how have you been able to get better and better each and every year?
I think it's just obviously putting the work in, but Coach Ross has done a really good job in just developing me as a player. I mean, we kind of have this conversation. As a freshman, I was kind of like a little out of control, a little all over the place. So just really honing in on, like, those little skills that will make my job and, like, my position a little bit easier on the catch, easier finishes. So
through your first 3 years at Washburn, 1 career 3-point field goal attempt. Do you remember that shot? What was going through your head when you took that shot?
Well, I'm pretty sure we were in Puerto Rico. It said I took it in Puerto Rico, but I don't think I took a 3. Like, I think it's just like a misstat, honestly.
Well, you better tell them to correct that because it's going to hurt your percentage.
Oh, it's okay. It's one shot.
Do you have a green light? Like, can you take any other 3s?
I mean, that would probably hurt my percentage a little bit.
Playing in the MIAA, how much fun has that been? And some of your favorite moments of the MIAA?
It's so fun. Like, you always hear about how the MIAA is like one of the toughest leagues in the country and all that stuff. And I feel like I can attest to that. You really will get anyone's best any night, regardless. Like, if you're in the top of the league, the bottom of the league. And I think you can kind of see it in some games from last year, like people who were maybe at the bottom of the league upset some teams at the top of the league. So it's just really competitive, and I really do enjoy that.
What's your favorite road trip in the MIAA?
Oh, maybe like Northwest West. Those are quick ones, so we get to come back.
I like that. Hey, Yiibari, I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.
That is Yiibari Nwidadah, a member of the Washburn University women's basketball team and out of Olathe North High School with our next level talents. Are you a person that's always on the go? You can still easily keep up with Kansas Sports Chatter with the audio podcast. Hear each episode on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to follow the Kansas Sports Chatter podcast. Thanks to all of our guests on today's show. Everybody enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the high school football, big-time matchups across the states. You can always subscribe on the YouTube page. Help us out there. And also, you can leave us comments on our social media pages, what you like about the show, what you would like to see. We wanted this to be as interactive as possible. Everybody, we'll talk to you next week on Kansas Sports Chatter.